I wanted to thank everybody for joining with us here as we unveil our exhibit honoring President Lincoln. So with that, if I could first ask you to join us in saluting our flag. We have Joshua Williams with us, who will lead us in the salute to our flag, followed by the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hear, hear. Another great product of the Stoughton Music Department. How many years?
Since third grade.
Since third grade, been singing in Stoughton schools. Mr. and Mrs. Williams, who are here with us as well, I know are proud. I could see the smiles. So thank you very much. So I'm just going to introduce a few people and thank some people here that have made this event possible. And not in any particular order, because there'll be a couple accolades for the people who have really come up to the plate. But if I didn't say that we haven't pumped a little lifeblood into our own society, I'd definitely be mistaken. The cleaning crews, Joanne Mixto, her sister Marcia, Denise Peterson, Ruth Fitzpatrick, Dick Fitzpatrick, Joan McCarran, I'm looking out, and it's easy. Brian, where's Brian? Brian's here as well. You know, we had a lot of people here cleaning and looking at items and redoing name tags to honor this event. There was a lot of invited guests here that made it possible, or they were here to help make it possible, that with the weather changing, we knew it was going to be a little bit of an issue. But what a day on President's Day to be honoring President Lincoln. We all know, those of us longtime Stoughton residents know what it's like to live in a tough town. President Lincoln definitely had a tough time on his hands during his presidency. You know, a country that was fighting itself. And what a day to be honoring him. Also joining us, Troop 516, Boy Scouts, who are here helping folks with their coats. We'd like to thank them. Board of Directors, Ruth Fitzpatrick and Rick Woodward, Denise Peterson, and Lou Palucci are all with us here today. Did I miss anyone? Okay, and our president, Dwight McCarran, who has been just on the go in this place all the time. I mean, never at a loss, always here and making a difference for us. Without, and I'd have to say, without the support of his wife, Joan, wouldn't be possible. Could I say that? Yeah. Pretty close? Yeah. Joan is just, again, just one of our key members. With us is our town historian, Howard Hanson, who's here. Former Selectwoman Cynthia Walsh is with us. You know, from the town. This is just such a great event. So I don't want to go on and on. What I'm going to do is introduce a few people and have the opportunity for you folks to come up here and you know, have a picture or whatever you'd like to do with and then speak with the owner of the exhibit as well. So with that, Dwight, if you could please come forward and bring greetings on behalf of the society.
Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the Stoughton Historical Society. We've just completed our 120th year of preserving the worthwhile past, and we're tickled to have you here. Many of you are members. If you're not, we'd appreciate it if you took one of our newsletters, consider joining. There are forms out there. The more lifeblood we get into the society with events like these, the more it makes it worthwhile for us to do it. There's also videos will be shown in the room next door eventually on Lincoln Memorial. You can hear the Gettysburg Address. There are 3 or 4 videos that we'll be showing projected on the computer screen in there. A pretty big Abraham Lincoln, even if he's a fraction of the size of the one at the Lincoln Memorial. And there's so much to Abraham Lincoln, so many things to say about him that, as he would say, our poor powers to describe it really fail. But he was a unique individual, and as Joe touched on, at some point he was the most hated man in the country. That came with the leadership. I mean, all the South hated him, and half of the Democrats hated him by the 2nd or 3rd year of the war. So part of what made him great was his ability simply to carry on in the face of unbelievable bloodshed. Bloodshed which changed his view of the war. When he came in, he was, as most of you know, was about preserving the Union. Neither he nor any of the practical politicians were really thinking they would abolish slavery. They thought it was simply too much part of Southern culture. What they were trying to do was keep it from extending to the new territories. But over the course of the war, when, as he says in the Gettysburg Address, when hundreds of thousands of people have died, it tells you that maybe there's a higher purpose going on here. And Lincoln was part of that when our country sort of redefined itself. Lincoln would say, some people say he amended the Constitution by invoking the Declaration of Independence. Then when it said that all men are created equal, before it meant all male white men who owned property, is what it originally meant. And by the end of the Civil War, not everybody was quite equal, because slaves couldn't vote, black citizens couldn't vote yet, and women couldn't vote either, but certainly a significant step got taken to move us forward in our history. And that's why it's so appropriate that we have this statue of Lincoln, and even if our words fail us to describe him, it's an honor to have it here. It's an honor. Joe and both Joes here did so much work several months ago. Well, imagine bringing this statue into this building. Joe McCrisky had to take both the front doors off, and even then they barely got it in. So I echo what's been said about all the people who did so much work, who've made this, sort of refurbish the place. It has a wonderful new look to it. It's given us new energy, and I hope you'll all have a wonderful time here, but do enjoy the refreshments. My wife, Joan, is certainly the person that made a lot of that happen. And look around at our exhibits, ask us all questions, and again, welcome to the Historical Society.
Thanks, Dwight. What Dwight fails to tell you, because maybe he didn't know, when we took the doors off, there was actually one point we didn't know how to put them back on. So, and Denise Peterson is here, and I think Denise will remember me saying, oh my God, if I have to call Dwight and tell him I can't get these doors back on, I was going to super glue them if I had to just to get them back on. They're tricky doors, but now we have it down to a science. We've made it so they can't open, so they can't get wide enough to let it out. Joe didn't know that one, so we'll keep it here hostage for a little while. So with that, I just wanted to now introduce Joe Mixto, who, come on over here, Joe. He sits over the side. He's not like me. Doesn't want to be up here. Get over here. Didn't know Joe before September, pretty close, but I knew his sister Joanne and his sister Marsha, who are with us as well. Great Stoughton family, long-time roots. Then heard about this, and at the time, Joe was looking for a storage place. Well, people who know me in Stoughton know I'm not afraid to open my mouth, and I said, well, why not the Historical Society? Why don't we store it here and let people see it instead of it sitting in somebody's garage or in a storage unit? And use this ability, on President's Day to honor the president and to bring something different to the town of Stoughton, which Joe was just so into it that he just fueled the fire. And if I can as well, I want to recognize, because he just walked in the back room, Ted Phillips from Representative Lou Kafka's office. I know he's here representing our senator and our two state representatives. So Ted, thank you very much for being here. Joe just had so many ideas. And it was so great to hear these ideas and new things for the Historical Society. Then I find out all the things that Joe Mixto has been doing over the years. Served under President Bush on a youth council, and worked with youth counselors all over the country to get programs for kids that delivered results and not talk about things all the time like people seem to do. And then when anybody watches the Thanksgiving Day Parade down in Plymouth, Joe is the founder of that. Joe has raised millions of dollars for civic programs, for business districts, and brought tourism to Plymouth basically on his own by surrounding himself with people that are better themselves and leading it through his ideas and using the talents of other people, and look what they've done. And that's what we try to do in the Historical Society as well, at a much smaller scale. We're not raising $4 million for a parade. If we could pull that off, it would be great. We'll put Joe up in the front and lead him right down. But the work that everybody here in this society does, from Dwight and Joanne, Howie, Brian, that are here all the time, the board of directors that come up on Thursday nights, but it's all not possible with everybody in this room. There's so much history in this room, we need to get it out there. So we'll encourage you, please, to consider joining. We're always looking for young members. There we go, we want the young members. So it's getting to the point where I remember thinking the Historical Society was where the old people hung out. And now I'm approaching 55, so I'm getting close to that. But it was different when I came in years ago as a member of the Board of Selectmen. Didn't even know what was in this building. So we're embarking on an effort to get more people in. And again, through all the hard work of Dwight as the president of the society, Joan has been here for a number of years with us. I mean, Evelyn Callahan, Denise, Rick, Lou, board of directors. I mean, there's just so much we can do, but we need your help. It's not going to be successful without your interaction. We've already kind of grabbed Joe. Joe's not leaving far. I've got his cell phone number. I know how to get him. And just some of the ideas, some of the displays you're going to see today. Joanne is like Stoughton's Martha Stewart. I mean, when you see ribbons and you see nice little touches and flares, again, I'm not afraid to open my mouth, but I'll tell you, I shut up and just, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And this is what happens when a group comes in, and we've had more fun cleaning and getting dirty than we've had in this place in a long time. So with that, I want to introduce Joe Mixto, our great Stoughton townie. We're still going to see if we can get him back to Stoughton, but welcome, and Joe, thank you so much for what you've done for the society.
I guess once from Stoughton, always from Stoughton. Joe mentioned that I got the parade going in Plymouth, but I had no choice. My uncle here in Stoughton, Bud McMahon, started the 4th of July parade here, so I had to kind of follow in his footsteps and keep things going down there. The piece that you see here today is very familiar to everybody because it's the one you see in Washington, D.C. It's just about half the size of the one in Washington, D.C. And that's a little deceptive because everyone thinks of that as being so massive because the building is so large, but the statue is only 19 feet tall. Both Joe and Dwight have mentioned that the big guy here had his rough times trying to put the country back together, as the country was very divided in his presidency. We think the country's pretty divided now, but we at least haven't taken up arms against each other just yet. The Congress, though, did step forward very quickly, and within 4 years after the president's death, they decided to honor him with a memorial. And then it went back to the typical way Congress does things. Then it took about 75 more years before they got things started. So it took them a while to get going, and around 1900 or so, 1904, Daniel Chester French was commissioned to design the statue for the Lincoln Memorial. And we look at things from our viewpoint of what we know today, and you can imagine trying to create something like this now with all our wonderful technology and laser, designing and all the things that we have to do things. Not the case back then. So Daniel Chester French carved this statue, this size, in clay. And he sculpted the entire model in clay right here in Massachusetts. And then his clay model was shipped to Brooklyn, New York, and there was a family from Italy that had come over, the Picciarelli brothers, that actually did the carving. When you go to Washington, D.C., you'll see that it's all made of massive blocks of marble. And the precision that those guys worked under was phenomenal because they had a small studio. They had no way to put the statue together. They shipped it by train to Washington, D.C., and the blocks went together perfectly, and we had the Lincoln Memorial. What Daniel Chester French did, though, was he was perfecting his design for that statue, and it seems like a simple thing when you're designing something until you see the effect that it has on people. Millions of people every year go to the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. to see his work, and everyone has the same reaction. I've only taken the statue out once, and I've owned it for 17 years, and I took it out for the 375th anniversary of the town of Hingham. And it was in a large space, and I had such pleasure just standing in the corner watching people's reactions. Somehow, Daniel Chester French got it right. He knew how to move us with his sculpture. So, amazing, amazing man. And what happened was, a sculptor in those days carved something in clay, they then made a mold of it. So what you're looking at is actually a mold. It's made from a mold of Daniel Chester French's work. So he didn't actually make this piece. It's made from his carving to a mold, and then this was made. So it's got a few years on it. It's many of you might have seen it. It was on display in a museum in Gettysburg for probably about 40 years or so down in Gettysburg. Again, hundreds and hundreds of people obviously came to Gettysburg to see it there too. So it's nice to have it here in Stoughton. Want to thank the Historical Society for their hospitality. It's been a real joy. I think we've turned the whole place upside down. So for the people that are usually here that make all this happen, my apologies for turning the whole building upside down. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to be here. And I hope you enjoy the exhibit. Do take some time. I grew up in Stoughton back 100 years ago. I was here when this was a youth center, long before the Historical Society. I was here when I was a kid, when it was a library. And I've never gone through these exhibits. And as we've gone through trying to tag things and look at things, it's amazing, the artifacts and the incredible history that's available here in town. So I hope you have a chance to enjoy it. And keep involved because they need as much energy as possible to keep the history of Stoughton alive. So I hope you will support them and keep that going. So thank you very much. Happy President's Day, everybody. It's a great day to celebrate this.
Thank you, Joe. And in closing, they always say you miss somebody. And if you could please just let me thank my girlfriend, Maria Simas, who stands here in the corner, but has supported me every step, of driving her nuts, running for this, running for that. I just want to say thank you, hon, love you. So with that, what I'd like to say to you all is welcome to the Historical Society, welcome to Stoughton, and thank you, President Lincoln. Thank you.